The meeting come to order. On behalf of myself and the other co-chairs, I'd like to welcome everybody to the first meeting of the Village of Wilmette's Sesquicentennial Planning Committee. This committee was created by the village board earlier this year to plan the village's sesquicentennial celebration in the year 2022. The precise date of Wilmette's founding is September 19th, 1872. That's the date when the village government was formally empowered to function as a municipal entity. September 19th was first celebrated as the village's birthday in 1947 on the occasion of the 75th anniversary. And since then, the date has been celebrated in 1972, the 100th anniversary in 1997, the 125th anniversary, and in 2007, the 135th anniversary. And I think Kathy Husty-Arnston, who is online with us, prepared a memo that was circulated to all of you that outlines these various celebrations. In creating the committee, the village board gave us wide latitude to recommend the form of the 2022 celebration. However, the village board made one point very clear. It wants us to achieve widespread community participation in all aspects of the process. It wants us to involve the village's governmental units, civic organizations, community groups, churches and synagogues, and of course, all of the citizens of the village. In light of this, our first task will be to solicit input on what the community wants in the way of a celebration, and that is where we are headed to beginning today. With that, Lisa, would you like to call the roll of the committee just to see who's here? Or I could do that if you don't have the list in front of you. Okay, Vern Spires.
Here.
Nancy Canafax.
Here.
Chris Canning.
Here.
George Pierce.
Here.
Al Swanson.
Here.
Beth Ducker.
Here.
Ann Kelly.
Here.
Julie Newsom. Julie may not be here yet. Kathy Husty-Arnston.
Here.
Okay. And Lisa McDonald.
Here.
And Lindsay Thomas.
Here.
Okay. I think the first order of business will be for each of us to introduce ourselves to the others. Most of us know one another, but perhaps not everybody. So I'll begin. I'm John Jacoby. I was Vern Squire's successor and Nancy Canafax's predecessor as village president. I served from 1989 to 1997. I've been living in the community since the 1970s. I've been involved in a variety of civic activities, and my real job was that of a lawyer. I was with a law firm named Better Price, Kaufman and Kamholtz in Chicago for almost 50 years. So that covers me. Vern, why don't you go next?
Okay. Well, I guess if you were my successor, then I must be your predecessor as village president, 1981 to 1989. I've been a long-time member of the board of directors of the Historical Society and am currently serving as the treasurer. I am yet another lawyer. I was with Wilson and McElvain for a long time. And then I ended up my professional career as general counsel for the Service Master Company. Lived in Wilmette for a long time, first on Gregory Avenue and then on Ashland Avenue, and am now in the retirement community Mather in Evanston. Thank you, John.
Okay, Nancy?
Well, you've introduced me partially. I'm your successor. I'm Chris Canning's predecessor as president. I was trustee and on various boards and commissions in the village, so I've had a history of village activity. I too am a lawyer, was a practicing lawyer, and we came to the village right after it celebrated its centennial in 1972, I guess.
Yes.
Was when its centennial was.
All right. Well, we'll get more out of you soon, Nancy. That was Chris?
I'm Chris Canning. I was Nancy's successor, serving as village president from 05 to 13. I first came to the village in 1962, and my career path then went to working at Chalet Nursery in the late 70s as a stock boy. Like Vern, like Nancy, like John, I'm also a lawyer, and our law office is now at the Chalet Office Plaza. So my career path is about 100 yards from one end of Chalet to the other. So, based on Kathy's memo, I probably saw the slideshow in the centennial celebration. I definitely attended Wilmette Days. I urged the committee to adopt many tilt-a-whirls because I think that's going to be key to any celebration of the Sesquicentennial. I think I've been to all the ones since 1972. So I'm going to flip it over to George Pierce, who has experience with another Sesquicentennial.
Okay, George?
Actually, thanks for reminding me that. But see, right now, I also am a lawyer. I retired from the firm I worked at downtown, but now I'm on counsel with a firm where Chris is my boss in Wilmette. And I was the village trustee for many years. I'm very active with the Wilmette Harbor Rotary Club, which I've been a member of for 30 plus years. Very active with St. Joe's, St. Francis Parish. I was actually chair of their Sesquicentennial committee. Fortunately, we had Nancy Canifex on that committee as well. So that celebration went quite well. So that's my update.
Okay, Al Swanson.
I was a village trustee from 2005 to 15 and served as chair of the Transportation Commission before that. I am not a lawyer. I am a civil engineer, retired for 5 years. I worked with McDonough Associates, which was a kind of an infrastructure design and construction firm, consulting firm in the city. I lived in Wilmette for a year back in 1970 and then moved with my family there in 1992. And after I retired and my term ended and everything else, I moved from Wilmette into Evanston. And I'm happy to be part of this.
Well, we're happy to have you. Beth Crocker.
Hi, I hope you can hear me okay. I'm on a phone in rural Illinois. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can.
Okay, so I am the head of Go Green Wilmette, our community environmental group, and I'm neither a lawyer or an elected official. I'm honored to be part of this esteemed group. I look forward to working with all of you, and one of the things that Go Green Wilmette does is we try to help people figure out how to plan celebrations that also have a positive impact on the environment. And so I look forward to adding a little bit of that to our planning. Thank you.
Great. Ann Kelly.
Hello. Can you hear me? Yes, I'm unmuted. Okay. I'm Ann Kelly of ASK Marketing Group. I am a Wilmette resident, of course. And personally, I've lived in Wilmette and raised my kids here for the last 12 years. I'm the youngest of 6, and all of my siblings were raised in Wilmette as well. So we have a long history of connections in Wilmette. Professionally, I am in advertising and marketing. I have my own marketing consultancy business here. And before that, I worked for Pioneer Press newspapers for 10 years in Wilmette, downtown Wilmette, which I think is now townhouses, and worked for the Tribune Company down at the Chicago Tribune Tower for 15 years as well before I started out on my own. And so now I'm doing marketing here locally. I am on the Chamber of Commerce board and work a lot with the village. I was very involved with the Wilmettenomics campaign that we ran about driving local business and supporting local. And I told Mike Brayman I would be on this committee as long as I didn't have to use Wilmettenomics and Sesquicentennial in the same sentence. So, and just happy to be here and hoping to contribute.
And one last question. What is the photograph on the wall behind you?
That is the Tribune Tower. My office used to be right there. That is that picture is from 1930 downtown Chicago. It's a beautiful photograph.
Okay, Julie Newsom here yet?
Hi, I'm on the phone, but also watching. I'm Julie Newsom. I'm the executive director of the Wilmette Kenworth Chamber of Commerce. I've been around since Nancy Canifax was village president. I'm doing my second tour of duty here at the chamber. I was director from 2000 to 2010. Then I went to the private sector for 6 years, and I came back in 2015. And so I did work on I forget what it was called, but the last big celebration when Chris Canning was president, and that was a fun thing. We had all those cupcakes, if anybody remembers, to give out. But I'm thrilled to be a part of this committee, and I look forward to working with you all.
Great. That was the 135th that you worked on with Chris, so it was 15 years ago.
135th.
Right, Chris?
Wow.
Chris, isn't that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that is right, John.
Okay. Next is Kathy Hussey-Arnston.
Thanks, John. Hello, everyone. I'm Kathy Hussey-Arnston. I'm the director of the Wilmette Historical Museum on, hopefully all of you know, on Ridge Road. And I have been the director since 1993, so I do remember the 135th, remember working on it. And we have a lot of records of some of the past celebrations. So hopefully I can be a resource if anybody has any questions about what we did before. The list I made up just as kind of a bare bones list, but we do have more information at the museum about some of those things if anybody wants to know about that. Before I worked at the museum, I worked at other museums in the city. Field Museum, Cultural Center, that kind of thing, and also worked in museums in Minnesota. So I've been around museums quite a few years, and I'm happy to work with the committee and look forward to it. Thanks.
Okay. Well, Wilmette has a tremendous historical museum, and Kathy and Vern are both involved. I'm not sure whether anybody else on the list. No, I don't think so. But we welcome your participation, Kathy. Next is Lisa McDonald.
Hello, I'm Lisa McDonald. I'm president of the Wilmette Board Trustees, Wilmette Public Library Board of Trustees. I've been on the Wilmette Public Library Board for about 12 years. I've been in Wilmette since 1992 and raised 2 sons with my husband. And I live in West Wilmette, and I moved here from Minnesota via LA, via St. Louis, and I'm originally from North Carolina. I currently do market research. I do qualitative research, so it's been really busy for the last 3 months, and I look at do a lot in terms of social issues as well as branding, as well as healthcare, because my background is consumer packaged goods and healthcare marketing. And the library is excited to be part of the 150th anniversary. I'm not going to say the something centennial because it's a mouthful. So you all can have fun saying that with a bunch of clothes on that. So we're excited, and we look forward to doing programming around that too.
Okay, well, the library is obviously going to be a very important part of this celebration, and we are very pleased that you are willing to serve on this committee. Thank you.
And Director Austin is also excited about it. So he says he'll do a lot of the heavy lifting. So we're excited.
Okay, good. And I guess last but not least is Lindsay Thomas.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lindsay Thomas. I work for the Wilmette Park District. I'm their manager of district operations. I worked for the district for, it'll be coming up on 7 years in March. Before my current role, I used to be the general recreation supervisor, and one of the main things that I helped work on was a lot of our special events. So our Halloween Happening event, Daddy-Daughter, Mother-Son, I worked with the Wilmette Foundation recently on the Beach Bash. So it's, I have some special event experience, which is what this is going to be, is a really special event. And I'm really looking forward to being a part of this and learning from all of you and helping to put together a really fun day and year and everything for the city of Wilmette, the village. So can't wait. Thanks for having me.
Okay, well, thank you. And like the library, the Park District is going to be a very important part of this celebration, and we welcome your participation. Thank you.
Of course.
Let's move on to talking a little bit about the planning. As I mentioned earlier, it's hard to plan before you obtain community input. So really our first objective is to go out and seek community input on what they're looking for in the way of a Sesquicentennial celebration. So it seems to me that we should be putting together a solicitation that can be publicized in the Village's Communicator and other forms of communication that are available to us. Wilmette Life, and I know that the other governmental units have their websites and so forth. But in order to draft something up that we can review with all of you, I'd be interested to hear what each of you thinks about a Sesquicentennial celebration. What you volunteered to be on the committee, so you must have had some idea what this would be like. And without holding anybody to anything or asking for any plans or commitments or anything of that sort, I just was wondering if you folks would mind speaking up and just saying a little bit about what you think. Chris, let's start with you.
Well, John, the last time we did this at 135, the idea was to generate a sense of community. Not so much we as a village, as a public entity, but community in that we do something with our friends and neighbors. And so the 135 had a performance, day of music, and a rib fest. But what we called it was a block party. And the reason, as the lawyers on the phone know that it was a block party, is when you have a block party, you are allowed to have open flames and open containers of alcohol on a public street. So in order to have people wandering around the village center carrying bottles of wine and cans of beer and cocktails, we called it a block party. So one thing we're going to do is we have a really unique opportunity. I don't think by next September we're going to be 100% open like we were 2 Septembers ago. But I'm very hopeful that by September 2022, we will have the opportunity to have, a big celebration with lots of people. And I envision celebrations throughout the year going throughout the community. So not just limited to fireworks at Gilson Park or something in the village center. And so it's not just soliciting input from the community, which we do need to do, but we need to proactively reach out and hold events throughout the entire village.
Good statement. George Pierce?
I'm just kind of thinking about some of the things we did at St. Joe's, which I know is different, but some of the things that people really enjoyed was finding out historical bits and pieces, families that have been here, several generations, and various things that they have done or contributed to the community. I know that was quite interesting to people. I don't know. Other things I've thought about is some type of public improvement project to focus on, whether it would be, for example, in my mind, Veterans Park is pretty tired and kind of almost non-existent. And that might be, if we decided to go that route of looking at some type of improvement, kicking around different ideas on that. So those are two thoughts.
Okay, thank you, George. Hal Swanson. Hal, are you there? We may have lost Hal. So let's try Nancy Canifax.
Well, I have one very specific idea that I've harbored, and it kind of follows George's path about historical importance. I would like to see, if this is possible or even appropriate, if we could go back to our designation as a city of a land grant to Wilmette, to Arcage Wilmette. I always thought Tree City was very bland and generic, whereas this is colorful and it has great importance in the long run. So that's just a particular idea that I have had.
You mean focus in on the Wilmette family and so forth, Nancy? Is that
exactly? And the history of, it was about 1812 when she keyed into Wilmette. And I think that has great importance for us even now.
Okay.
Our history, our coming from the Potawatomi area.
Okay, Beth Drucker.
Hi. So couple ideas that I have is that we tie in some of the natural areas that not everyone is always familiar with. The Key Nature Center is a place that very few people in Wilmette go to, which is lovely. We have an amazing prairie at another park district area that could host a prairie festival of some kind. But I also think that we should include some of the new things that may attract some of the younger people in our community. There are a lot of virtual ways to celebrate things, to pull things together, to have online video contests, or some sort of an online presence as well. So those are the kinds of things. I think it might be important for us to recruit some of our newer residents to see what's of interest to them. And also maybe looking ahead, maybe have an element about what people, foresee Wilmette looking like as a community in the future. Might be kind of an interesting element to it as well. What will the next 50 years look like? Just a couple off the top of my head thoughts.
I think we're hearing some pretty good ideas, but let's go on to Ann Kelly.
Okay. Just a couple thoughts off the top of my head. I think one thing that strikes me about, living in Wilmette is that I feel like the community is passionate about living in Wilmette and why they chose to live here and why they continue to live here. And so I think, of course, I always think about everything from a marketing standpoint, but I think that the historical stuff is important to remind the community of all the things that make Wilmette special. from the historical beginnings and how we got to where we are, from what it looks like and how the businesses have grown and changed, how the community has changed, and why it's a great place to live. So I think that's just a feel of the communication throughout the year of celebrations. And then I think from an event standpoint, we have a really fun, engaged community. And I think everybody, loves a good party. They love fireworks. Like some of the things the Park District has done has been amazing with the beach bash and things like that. And I think if we have that planned out in advance, if hopefully life is back to normal, I think that having a year-long schedule of celebrating Wilmette is great. I mean, we've got so many opportunities at the Wallace Bowl, maybe to have some kind of a special show that, or a musical or something that commemorates, the history of Wilmette or something that's significant. And then at that point, also the streetscape project will be completed. And so we will have a lot of improvements downtown Wilmette that kind of includes Veterans Park a little bit and more lighting and more places for people to sit. Village Green will look different. So I think that utilizing and celebrating the changes in those spaces would be great. And then I also like the idea of tapping into the community and saying, here's where we are today. Let's get some feedback about ways that we can make the community even better and more engaged. And of course, the local businesses are an integral part of that, and getting them to, to weigh in on that as well.
All right, Vern?
Yeah, several things. I think we should have a series of pictures run on websites. The museum has a fabulous array of photographs, which could be run again and again. And we should set up an exhibit at the museum also. I thought the idea of a panel discussion by heads or current heads or former heads of various governmental units to think about what they faced over the period in question. I think we ought to tie in District 39 somehow and get the kids interested for their own sake, and hopefully that would draw the interest of their parents. I also thought that list of products that Kathy provided has a lot of kind of nifty things, fun reminders of what is going on. And let's see, I guess I mentioned District 39. So those are my thoughts, piled on top of some really good ideas that have already been suggested.
Okay, Vern, thanks. Good ideas. Kathy?
Well, as to follow up on something Vern said, certainly the museum can do an exhibit. We are planning on doing that for this for the 150th, but I'm going to listen to what people have to say and so forth before we decide how we're going to focus that exhibit. We certainly have time to do that. And I mean, do we have an exhibit about what makes Wilmette special? Do we, is it focused on families? It could be a lot of different things. So, but we are planning on doing an exhibit that would be in conjunction with it. And happy to, as Vern said, we have over 13,000 images right now of Wilmette. And so happy to work with the committee, if you need images of Wilmette from the 19th century up to almost the present day. So hopefully we can contribute in that way as well. Some things that I hear from people that I think are kind of interesting, I don't know how we would get to it from the as part of a festival celebration, is that there are so many people in the village, and I hear that today on the meeting, that have grown up in the village and come back to live as adults and raise their children. So there are many, many families that are 2-3 generations in the village, and sometimes more if you go back to some of the old Grosse Pointe families who've been here since the 1840s. Some of them are still, descendants are still in the village. That's kind of an interesting component to me, of people who have, you know, as Ann said, very passionate about the village and stay. And I don't know how we get at that, but I think it's something that would be fun to recognize, in a way, recognize those families who have some longevity in the community. The other thing that I think is important and is to be very inclusive in this, and that one of the things that I noticed today, there's nobody of Asian American people on the committee, and although it is a minority in the community, if you look at the census records. So I really hope that, you know, when we do plan out these festivals and events, that we really are inclusive of more, and maybe that what would happen is if we include more recent people who have moved to the village. By recent, I mean, you know, 1980s forward, maybe. Anyway, I think that would be, I think that's important as well. So that's it for me.
Yes.
I do have one more. John, John, can I say one more thing
Sure.
before I get off? And that is that the other, the 100th and the 125th were year-long celebrations, and they started the year before. In other words, for us, it would be 2021. And we probably, I'm just saying, given the current climate, we may not want to do that. But it's something that the committee might think about. What is the time frame that we want to have the celebration in?
Okay, I think your point about the membership of the committee is a valid one. And I don't know that the current 12 members, that's the final answer. I think that there's flexibility to add members to the committee or to get helpers from the community to help the committee. So I believe that in order to make this successful, we're going to have wider participation in the leadership than simply the 12 members of the committee. But it was a good point. Lisa?
When I think about Wilmette, I think of two sides. I live in West Wilmette. West Wilmette is extremely diverse if you look at the Avoca School District and the number of nationalities present. Being part of the library, one of the things that we value is dialogue. And I think if the Historical Society could look at what have been the issues maybe every 25 years and take maybe 4 different areas and show the evolution and look at where we've been, where we are and where we're going, I think that might be really interesting in terms of looking at education. I think looking at race relations. I think looking at industry, who lived in Wilmette back in the day. I think that's real important. I think in terms of, if I look at the library staff and the programming that they do, they are very key because they're involved with the community and they do wonderful programming. So I would I would brainstorm with them and have us brainstorm with them after we have, and I think it's important to look maybe 25, 25, 25, 25. I first said every 10 years, what were some of the key things, but I think that's too minute, but maybe every 25 years. I don't know if Kathy could let us know what some of the highlights were to sort of start the brainstorming. I think also what's important is maybe have some type of youth or teen council that we get kids from Park District High School, you know, to just sort of get their ideas as to what might work. Because I know the library, I don't know what the status is of it now, had a teen board, but if there could be some type of board with some youth, because I think they could come up with some really good things to engage their peers. And then finally, I remember the contests are wonderful. And I remember the parking sticker contest and the controversy over that. I don't know but maybe in honor of the 150th, we could have some type of, some type of contest, because that's a good way, I think, to kick it off and get kind of everyone involved. Those are just some of my thoughts right off the board. But
Well, thank you. And those are great ideas. Alan Swanson, are you back with us yet? Apparently not. Let's see. Who have I not? How about Lindsay? Are you still with us?
Yes, I'm here. Hello.
Okay.
Wow, so many great ideas. I feel like, it's like, they took that one from me. They took that one from me. So we're all, I feel like, thinking on a lot of the same pages, which is awesome. The only thing that I'll add, I guess, is, or kind of maybe expand on a little more, is I think, with the suggestions of getting the younger families or the kids from District 39 or kids from the Park District or teens or whomever, finding a way to get them involved with whether it's an activity of some sort, a contest of some sort, a scavenger hunt, some sort of ways to make it fun for them to learn about the community that they live in. I think sometimes when you're younger, history, unless you like history, I was like, I have to learn about history. I went to Mount Rushmore and was like, I don't want to go to Mount Rushmore because I didn't understand and appreciate all that there was to know and learn. And now that I'm older, I obviously have a much different appreciation, but trying to find some unique, fun ways to get the younger kids or the younger families involved to really learn about what their community is and where we've come from and who we are now and where we're looking to be. So yeah, just those kind of fun activities that I think, coming from Park District and recreation, that's just my world and how I think in a lot of senses, but all awesome ideas. So looking forward to helping contribute more.
John, can you hear me now?
There he is. Okay, you're up to bat.
Yeah, that's what I get for moving to Evanston. I can't get decent internet service. I probably missed everything that people said, and I hope this isn't a repeat. But I always thought that the one hallmark of Wilmette, for people that I met here, was that they had a sense of community, and they thought very highly of Wilmette as a family place, a place to raise kids, a place to connect with your neighbors, and they really, that's the part of the town that they really lined up with and they really liked. Given all the stuff that's happened in the last year, I think we need to do some work on recapturing that community spirit, and this is perfect timing to do that, particularly if you started in the fall of, say, 21. By that time, I think, or the summer, by that time the vaccine will be here and we'll get a chance to connect. And I think it would be very well received to have a community kind of activity to get behind. And I can't think of anything better than this kind of anniversary. So I'm sure everybody said a lot of good things about education and things like that, and I agree with all of that. But I think this is an opportunity to reconnect the community.
Okay. Is there anybody I've skipped over? Julie wasn't connected.
Hi. Yeah, I obviously I think businesses, and one thing that's always been really remarkable to me is the number of businesses that have been here for such a long time, not 150 years necessarily, and of course of late we've lost a couple of them, which is very, very sad. But I love this opportunity to focus on some of the businesses that have been here for a really long time. And I know that Kathy has some really neat pictures of the business districts and of some of the old businesses. So I think it would be really fun to be able to integrate that part into it as well.
Okay. Now, is there anybody else that I didn't call on? I think I called on everybody. And do we have any people signed on to this meeting who aren't on the committee?
I don't think so.
Okay. By the way, we didn't have the staff people introduce themselves. Let's do that right now.
I'm Lisa Roberts. I'm Assistant Director of Community Development. I'll be helping get everything moving.
Okay, well, you can do a little more than that. How long have you been with the village?
It's been maybe 24 years in total.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
That's a long career already.
Yeah.
Okay, now, is there anybody else there that is staff?
Alex is on the line with us. Go ahead.
Yep. Hello, everybody. My name is Alex Artiega. I'm a management analyst for the village manager's office, but I work with across basically all village departments on tasks here and there. So I'll be helping out Lisa with any staff liaison work as needed. I've been working for the village of Wilmette. I started in June of last summer, so a little over a year now. And I started in public works, and now I'm over at village manager's office. So very much looking forward to working with everybody and seeing how we can best celebrate our village's Sesquicentennial.
Okay, and who were you with before you came to the village, and how long have you been with the village?
I've been with the village since June of 2019. Prior to being with the village, I was actually a high school history teacher. So I taught 3 years in Lawrence, Kansas, and 1 year in Calumet City. And then I started a grad program and transitioned into local government. So this is working for Wilmette is my first experience in local government.
Okay. You're mentioning that you were a teacher. Reminds me that we don't have anybody on the committee who is from District 39 or District 37. And I think that's something that maybe we should talk to Mike Brayman about. It would be nice to have representation from one or both of the school districts. Okay, thank you.
Sounds good, of course.
You know, it occurred to me that when you are deciding how you want to celebrate the Sesquicentennial, you ought to need to know first why you're celebrating it and what you want to accomplish. And what Chris Canning said and what others have said, I think gets to that point. We should be trying to promote unity among the people of the community, to create community spirit, to teach about history and the traditions of the village and create the roots that the children will carry with them the rest of their lives. Just to renew old friendships. You know, we've been separated from each other for a long time. George's idea about some kind of public improvement. You know, Veterans Park, yes, it is a little shabby maybe now. And of course, there's a vacant property next door. Maybe something should be done as George has suggested. And just to have some good old-fashioned fun as this pandemic rolls behind us, hopefully. All those things are reasons why we should be celebrating, and the events we plan should be based on the reasons for doing it. So that would be my closing remarks. I would suggest that we have the Christmas holidays coming up and New Year's and so forth, that we spend this time maybe with staff working out a campaign for soliciting input from the public. Is that agreeable to everybody?
Sounds good.
Yes.
All right.
I think, though, that sometimes I know with research, if you have some ideas to throw out, you get far more input because they've got something to respond to. So you've thrown out a couple of things. One, do you want it a year? Do you want it half a year? Do you want it a month? And so I think that's the first thing, is what they wanted. And then just throw, you know, we've talked about a bunch of things and just say in terms of what their priority might be.
I think that's an excellent.
But it's better, I think, in little parts. And so I think if we have what we think we want to do, and then I think they can respond all kinds of ways to it. It's easier to tear up something than to build it. So, and improve upon.
Well, there have been a lot of ideas expressed, and we can take those and mold it into the kind of thing you're talking about, I believe.
Kathy, excuse me, Kathy, is there anything on your website that gives like a brief, not brief, but 150th year history of Wilmette, or that you could share? Because that would be a good guide for the library staff to get them thinking of some stuff.
You know, I have to, there is a general history of the village on the website. I don't know how far forward it goes, but there is, and there is something on the village's website, I think also, that might be a little bit of an overview. Yeah, I'll have to look for sure to see how far it may stay, you know, fairly much in the 19th century. That's all I'm not sure about. Yeah, there's lots of history, of course, on our website, that might be helpful. We've also, I think somebody said something about scavenger hunts, and for the last 4 years, we've done scavenger hunt for the kids in the village, and taking, you know, a particular theme, whether it's John Westerfield and growing the pickles, or Archange Wilmette, or something else, and that's been very popular. So I would encourage, you know, as an event that gets kids and families involved, is a scavenger hunt of, it could be any theme, but around the villages has been very popular. So I just wanted to reinforce what somebody said about scavenger hunts.
Okay. I think maybe we've done as much as we can do. Is there anybody that wants to say anything else?
John, it's Beth. Oh, sorry.
Sorry,
Beth Drucker. I also serve on the Bike Walk Wilmette group, and I'm just thinking that group, I would expect, would be happy to lead a village-wide bike ride of some kind as part of it.
Interesting idea.
And it could be in conjunction with the historical museum, where we could be featuring historical stops along the way.
Okay.
Good idea.
Anyone else?
Yeah, yeah, Beth, I've worked with Ann Nagel with something like that before, so that could be really doable.
Yeah, I mean, we practically have the route already.
Right.
Yeah, thanks.
I had a question, John. Are we restricted on being able to send emails to each other with questions and thoughts in terms of open meetings?
That's a good point. We are a public body and are subject to the Open Meetings Act. So we should probably do our communicating through staff.
What's the number of the people on the committee? How many are on?
12.
So the majority of half is
4.
That means 4. So you can, 3 people could talk. 3 people can talk together. That's it.
Well, we should be very careful. We don't want to get what is a good idea turned into a scandal. So we should be very careful with what we do.
Thanks.
Try to go through staff.
Here's one other. Oh, excuse me.
Go ahead.
Just one other idea. In conjunction with the chamber and the businesses, and with the scavenger hunt, I'm just wondering if there could be like a 1-month taste of Wilmette, where you can get the 150th anniversary special, and just and maybe, you know, because that way it would drum up business, but also it could be fun, and you would get to know a little bit more about businesses if they might want to do something like that. And if they even had some food that might have been back in the day on the menu, in terms of, you know, if they can make it fun so they don't lose money.
Yeah, and use 50-year-old prices.
Right. Right.
I think that one of the purposes of the Sesquicentennial, and I hate to be crass about this, but is drumming up the business for our local businesses, restaurants, and our other establishments. You know, there's nothing wrong with bringing people to the village to shop, and to eat, and to spend some of their money here and raise some taxes for us. So that's another purpose, I think, for doing all of this. Anybody else have anything they want to contribute at this point? What if we schedule another meeting for February, early February? And before that, we'll ask staff to pull this all together and to come up with a proposed, for lack of a better term, solicitation of input. And circulate that among you and let you comment about it and get it back to Lisa and maybe use the meeting in February to further the discussion on that. That sounds like a good way to proceed.
Sounds good.
Any objection?
Sounds good.
All right. February, anybody want to throw out a date? or should we let staff schedule the next meeting for early February?
Want to shoot for maybe the second week in February? Just throwing something like that.
Sure.
We'll need to coordinate with Kathy to make sure we can get a time to be broadcast, assuming we're still meeting remotely then.
All right, why don't we do this, Lisa? We'll target the second week of February, and then you can solicit the group to see what date works best for everybody. I'm sure not everybody has their calendar with them. We'll do it that way.
Okay. Sounds good.
Is there anything else that anybody wants to raise? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Who made that? Who made the motion?
Yeah.
Okay, and it's been seconded. That was you, Chris, right?
Yep.
All right, and I will call the roll. Ernst Squires,
Yes.
Nancy Canifax,
Yes.
Chris Canning,
Aye.
George Pierce,
Aye.
Al Swanson,
Aye.
Beth Drucker,
Aye.
Ann Kelly,
Aye.
Julie Newsom,
Yes.
Kathy Hutchinson,
Yes.
Lisa McDonald,
Yes.
and Lindsay Thomas.
Yes.
And we have to do that because of the legal rules about adjourning meetings held on Zoom or other internet devices. So it seems kind of silly, but the motion to adjourn passes, and thank you all for your participation.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Happy holiday. Thank
All
you.
right.